Welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast. I am Charlie Caleri alongside
Gavin Williams.
And today,
I got my voice back today.
Yeah, Gavin has his voice back fully today. Fully.
Ready to roll.
That's great. Gavin's ready to roll, but we're ready to dive deep into the NBA. NFL season's over, unfortunately, but
198 more days until the next NFL snap.
There we go. That's the official countdown right there from Gavin Williams. But we're going to dive deep into NBA today, and for probably the rest of Season 3, it's going to be a lot of NBA content. So hopefully
NBA, a lot of NHL, coming up.
college
MLB,
basketball too.
MLB's opening, what is it?
They open a month.
37 days?
They open
MLB?
Opening days in 37 days, but they open a month from today as we're recording this in Japan or Korea. They're playing like an international series. It's the Dodgers and the Padres.
Interesting.
Yeah, they're playing. So they start like a week earlier so they can get back.
I like that.
Yeah,
That'll be
it's
fun.
a little cool right there. But right now, fully into NBA, so we'll just go over the standings real quick right after the All-Star break. And, you know, I'm really excited for the second half of the season.
Yeah, first half of the season, it always seems to fly because
so
of football.
fast. Yeah.
Because when all you think about is football, all of a sudden, NFL Super Bowl's done. The next week you already have All-Star break, and you're like, whoa, where did the first half of the season even go?
Yeah, I mean, you're already 55 games into the season.
I mean, you're more than halfway
you're
through.
More than halfway, and you gotta. I mean, most of your, not me personally, but some of your fans that haven't been watching the whole season.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause
now they're diving back in. 30 games left, right before playoffs or not
it's
before
crunch time.
playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the best sports stretches in the nation.
It is.
I mean, when it all sucks after the Super Bowl because you have that 1 week of horrible, just
nothingness.
bad.
Yeah, it's All-Star games.
Yeah.
It's kind of filler. College basketball is good for a week.
But now it's like we're getting to the crunch for college basketball. We're getting to the meat of the schedule for a lot of these teams in the NBA.
Oh, yeah. It's the spring. It's like the October version for the spring sports
really
kind of thing. Yeah, so let's just dive right into it now. Start with the East and your team's at the top.
Yeah, the Boston Celtics had a crazy offseason before it even started. And last year, they were down 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals, so the Miami Heat came all the way back, tied the series up. I thought that Game 7 was an absolute – I thought we were going to blow the hell out of them out of the water. In TD Garden.
At home, yeah.
At home.
I mean,
that
at home.
That you couldn't have asked for a better storyline. Jason Tatum gets hurt in the first minute, but that's last season. Celtics washed the team away. That, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Brad Stevens because that guy, he was a good coach, and now he's an even better GM. The Celtics have had great identities with having good GMs.
He's a modern-day Pat Riley.
Yeah.
He needs to be talked about more. This guy is such a good basketball mind, and he just knows how a team's supposed to work.
He does.
So it's just
having a coach do it too.
Yeah, having a coach having that experience.
Before we had a player with Danny Ainge. He was a Celtics
player.
Yeah,
which he was good. He got the moves done that needed to be
turned the whole
done.
Team around.
Yeah, you really did after 2014, 2015. Those were rough years for the Celtics, but after that, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's hard to make a team like the Celtics who went to Game 7 of the conference finals last year. It's hard to make them better. Somehow the team is just clicking right now. I don't know if that's – it's kind of weird because last year maybe it felt like there was better team chemistry, but this year just feels like they're just better.
There's more fun together.
Yeah, KP and Drew getting added. I mean,
those were the two big additions, and they had to get rid of guys like Marcus Smart and Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon.
And unfortunately, those are both upgrades from those three guys. So.
And unfortunately, it is because Marcus Smart was one of the most loved men in Boston. But hey, sometimes you have to do business, and he understands his business, and you have to bring in a guy like Drew Holiday, who has 63% shooting in the corner of the three.
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Great,
highest in the NBA
weird
right
stat,
now.
but a very productive stat.
Yeah,
productive stat.
And it's not the guys who are going to go out there and they're going to put out 35 points a game. You need the guys who can fit their roles.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you'll see a trend. We'll just continue with the East here. We got the Cavs in second.
The Cavs didn't really make any splashes in the offseason.
No,
but they made it the year before with Donovan Mitchell. So they're growing.
You see a lot of these. You see a lot of these teams at the top, and one thing that they all have is just depth. I mean, that's
the
really,
Cavs have some good depth.
That's really what you need in the NBA nowadays.
That's all
depth.
you need.
Yeah,
you can have the best four in the whole league, but if you don't have any depth to back it up, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
not all 4 of those guys are going to be on the court at the same time.
Especially because everybody. This is why I'm advocating for NBA expansion, because every team is just so stacked right now.
It
Like,
is.
why don't we have more teams, or just expand the rosters to 15 or something? Just make them bigger. I mean, you can't keep having 30 teams of 12 or 13 guys when there's plenty of talent. Especially with the longevity,
Spread it out, spread the love.
especially with the longevity of careers. This is for all sports too. I mean, you're making so much money. Longevity of careers is hopefully going to continue to get longer and longer. So, I mean, there's going to be less and less room for younger athletes to be put on teams. So we need more teams.
And we
I think.
see it right now with a 39-year-old LeBron James playing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean, then you got guys like even this next generation in quotes, saying like Curry, KD, Harden, Kawhi, Westbrook, all these guys. I mean, they're all still playing really well, and they're getting
deep in their 30s.
Yeah, they're getting deep, middle into their 30s now. So you're saying, are they going to have the same production in 4 or 5 years that LeBron is having? Probably not. But at the same time, for 3-4 years, they could still have elite production.
And we're getting through the technology and the doctors and the trainers, and they're all teaching these guys how to nourish their body so that they could play until they're 40.
Especially because people want to do that now. I mean, like, look at us. I mean, we want to talk about sports because we unfortunately don't have the ability to play sports anymore. It's the same thing for people that, it's the same thing as people who are on the medical side of that. People that still want to be involved in sports but can't, but they found a passion for something in the medical field. So they go into be a doctor for sports. So
so
stuff like that.
Continuing on,
we need more sports teams.
We do. The Cavs were down into like the 4 or 5 range, but they're taking the leap. Donovan Mitchell's upgrading his game. Evan Mobley is playing crazy.
Yeah.
They just have a ton of guys who can just go out on the floor and just do their role. I think that's the thing with the Cavs this year. Everybody knows their role, especially Darius Garland. He's not forcing it as much anymore.
Yeah, I did notice that a lot for them.
They're just fitting in their roles now. They're sitting in nice, and they're at the 2 seed right now for a reason.
Yeah, and as you mentioned,
coaching's good too.
Team chemistry's building. Yeah, the coaching staff's been overhauled. I mean, the whole organization has, but coaching staff's been overhauled. But I want to mention the Cavs have been playing really well. But part of the reason why they are the 2 seed now is because the teams behind them now, the Bucks, Knicks, Sixers, and Pacers, they've all and even the Heat, honestly, they've all really fallen off.
They've gone through some bad stretches,
and they've all been hurt. They've all been hurt. I mean, the Sixers have been hurt. The Knicks have gotten a little bit hurt recently, unfortunately for them. But the Bucks, they're not really hurt. It's just they're cycling. They've cycled through 3 coaches this year.
Yeah, now they're developing.
And Doc is just not.
I don't think Doc's the guy. I mean, you bring in a guy who is a splash town shooter, Dame Time. I mean, they made that huge splash to make him. They got rid of Drew Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
They got rid of a lot just to bring in a guy who can elevate Giannis to be a better player.
And it has. I'll give him that.
In the first quarter of the season, it was a battle between the Celtics and Bucks right there. Boom, boom, boom. They didn't like their coach. They let him walk. They just fired him. They didn't let him walk. Sorry.
They fired him,
just fired him
kind of out of nowhere, too.
It was out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I still agree with the call. I thought he was doing a good job.
I agree.
You're second in the whole East, and you're not pleased with it.
Was that Adrian Griffin?
It was Adrian Griffin.
Yeah.
And so
who's the second guy? I can't remember his name.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
But so they bring in Doc Rivers, who had 3, 4, maybe 5 games, and he was an all-star coach, which
I mean,
still is weird.
That's
but,
whatever. Yeah.
I mean, you bring in a guy who's Doc Rivers. He's won a championship before with a hard-nosed team. He went to L.A. That was a hard-nosed team with Lob City. None of this was a primer teams who can shoot behind the 3-point line.
Yeah,
he goes to the Sixers. That's what they were before Harden. Now Harden comes in. Now he has a hard time dealing with Harden. And now you throw him in a system where they have Damian Lillard, who only shoots threes.
Yeah,
and that's hard to. You can't mash those two together. It's hard-nosed coaching versus 3-point shooting. It doesn't mash well.
And I mean, obviously, I watched Doc coach for how many years?
Both of us have.
Yeah. And I mean, the one thing that I noticed with him, and JJ Redick has been very vocal about this, is the accountability factor. I mean, Doc, before the All-Star break, made a comment saying we have some of our guys here and some of our guys in Cabo. Do not, especially when you aren't a coach for that long with the team, do not talk about your players like that. They won't respond well to it. And they're 3-7 in their last 10 before the All-Star break. So that definitely didn't help and definitely won't drive the players. Hopefully for the Bucks, they can have kind of resurgence. But for Doc, I mean, you got to start taking some accountability for yourself because we've seen it in the past with some of these teams. Every Clippers player from Lob City that goes on shows and podcasts and
JJ's
whatnot.
podcast is amazing,
Yeah,
by the way. Love that.
And talk about it. and talk about those teams, and even the players that played against those teams, they all say that the coaching was the problem.
They saw it. They knew it.
Yeah, and there was a lot of team chemistry issues later, but when they were in the prime of Lob City, the main thing that was the problem with the team was Doc, ultimately. And,
Unfortunately.
And it really stinks because I really like him, and he's one of my favorite coaches of all time. My first coach that I ever watched in the NBA.
Same here.
But, man.
Yeah.
Man, just this guy, he's got to go away, unfortunately. He had a really good job with ESPN doing
I
an
thought
analyst.
he was kind of funny.
And he was doing really well in the broadcast, but
Yeah.
then he just all of a sudden packs up and goes to Wisconsin.
This is what I'm feeling. I mean, I know it's definitely not the same circumstances, but it's feeling a lot like a Stan Van Gundy going on where he was the analyst. Now he went to the Pelicans. He was horrible, so now he's an analyst again. And I don't know why it kind of feels like that for Doc, even though I know Doc's a legendary coach.
And unfortunately for the Bucks, I mean, they're going to probably have 4 coaches within 1 year after this offseason. I mean, unless they can turn it around with Doc. But
I don't see that.
I
think it's kind of a rent.
Yeah.
Let's rent Doc for a year.
Yeah, I think that's maybe how he sees it too. Maybe that's why he took the job.
Maybe.
We don't really know, but I guess we'll just have to see how that all plays out. But moving on to the play-in teams in the East, 7 through 10 right now is Miami, Orlando, Chicago, and Atlanta. And all these teams are at totally different points.
Yeah.
I mean, the Heat, they've fallen off a little bit recently, but they're trying to get back on track.
You can tell that they were riddled with
injuries. Every year,
I mean,
man.
They can't catch a break in the regular season.
And then they come back, they'll be the 6th seed. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be the same thing every year for the Heat. But I like the Heat, so it's not a problem for me.
I hope they sit right at that 17, just chill there for the rest of the year.
Yeah, you hope.
I do not
You don't
want
to play them in the first round. No.
That is the one team I do not want to see.
Yeah, if you look at these, I was about to mention that the teams below them, Orlando, young team. They have no experience in the playoffs.
And that was nuts. They were a 2 seed at one point in the season.
Or very early.
Very early, but they were about to 3 or 4
but yeah,
for a long time.
Yeah, but they were up
Week
in the
2, 3.
They were right where the Knicks are and where the Pacers are. Yeah, right in that range right there.
I mean, let's talk about a guy right here. Paulo Banchero has absolutely upgraded his game so well.
And I was kind of a doubter.
I was a doubter.
I didn't think he'd be that great coming out of Duke because it was kind of just like, who is this guy?
He had a 1-year weird stunt with Duke, and I was still surprised that he was drafted so early.
I am too, but honestly, I mean, obviously the
off.
Magic saw something in this guy because he has proved everybody wrong.
He's a baller.
He's an all-star, perennial all-star at this point. He should be.
In that all-star game,
he played great in the all-star game. Moving down to the Bulls here. Weird team. They're in a weird spot. They've been talking about trading Zach LaVine for a while and Vucevic, but it's not really going to get done, I don't think.
No.
Every year this happens. But the Bulls, they're going to be where they are. They're probably going to finish around 40, 41 wins, get around that 500 mark.
Yeah, they'll make the plan.
And they'll make the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, in Atlanta, I think they'll finish above Chicago. Because I do think they just every year they disappoint early in the season.
And then they just build it up.
Late in the year, they build it up. They'll be in the play-in too. But they'll probably be playing the Hawks or they'll probably be playing the Celtics in the first round. If I had to guess,
kind of like last year.
Probably, yeah,
and
exactly.
The thing with the Hawks is it was kind of the same thing as last year, but a little bit different because last year was their first year with DeJounte Murray. Now they were getting into trade rumors with DeJounte Murray.
Yeah,
they were at one point going to scrap the season.
Yeah, it was. They were really close.
Yeah.
They were really close. I mean, everything.
I mean, they're still under 500, and they're
significantly. They're 7 games under 500 right now.
I mean, and they need one great turnaround. But if there's one team that could do it, every single team below them has 0 chance of making the play-in.
Yeah,
I'm gonna point that out.
That's what I was going to mention. The only team that relatively has a chance is maybe the Nets. Maybe the Nets.
But they just fired their head coach.
They just fired their head coach, so it's kind of
I like that.
Kind of the writing. Jacques Vaughn,
great
coach.
Great coach.
Hopefully he can get picked up somewhere. But the Raptors and the Nets, they're kind of in a similar spot.
Raptors scratched.
Young teams that kind of scratched everything, and they're kind of
OG Anunoby
starting.
They brought in RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly, just some young guy. I think they're ready to start the rebuild.
Yeah, and I feel like next year's going to be a year where they'll be in that 7-8 range, kind of where the Magic are now. And they'll build up their franchise. So hopefully Toronto can get back to where they are. But then you get to the bottom here. Hornets have been playing pretty well recently. I'll give them that. They won 3 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, they've won 3 in a row. But they were on a 7-game losing streak before that.
That is true. They're 13-41. So I'm not saying they're a great team, but they have made some good additions. I mean, the trades that they made, they were very active at the deadline.
They were.
But the trades that they made were very, very good for that direction of that franchise.
Make it younger.
They really have not had a direction in forever. They've been young, but it's not like they've been like good and young. They've just been young and just like there. So getting a guy like Trey Mann who can got lost in that shuffle of that OKC backcourt with all their young guys. Getting him so he can shine in Charlotte was a really good move for them. And they just got a lot of turnover in that organization that hopefully this offseason they can all just iron out and just start from scratch and just push forward because, I mean, North Carolina and basketball are synonymous with each other, just like Indiana and basketball. But Charlotte's just not been good in a while. So
it's crazy because you have Durham and you have Chapel Hill right there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both, I mean, Duke and
those
North
are the
Carolina.
two main markets.
And now they're rolling right now.
At this point, people care more about the college teams than the NBA team in that region, which is sad.
Yeah, I mean, they got rid of Terry Rozier and Gordon Hayward at the trade deadline, just making that team younger.
Yeah, and I think moving forward with LaMelo and Trey Mann and guys like that, I think those
Brandon Miller too.
And Brandon Miller, I think those are guys that can just push that franchise in the right direction.
Kyle Bridges is coming back.
I think they're moving in the right direction, but I just need to see it. I think
we'll need 2 more years for them.
Yeah, probably. And then the bottom two rounding out Washington, Detroit.
Washington was
8 and 9 wins respectfully.
I mean, Washington had this huge idea of having the duo, and maybe they can get
Poole
a play-in
and Kuzma,
spot.
which are the two
worst guys you'd want.
Worst guys you can probably have leading a team.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for them. I mean, I'm not trying to bash them, but they're
just
not leader. I mean, Kuzma is turning to be a leader. I mean, he seems like he wants to lead, but Jordan Poole, man, he's just out there getting his shots.
Man.
Yeah, he's just getting his shots up. I mean,
this is his rent team, I think.
Yeah, not good for him. But the Wizards, I mean, they talk a lot for having 9 wins. I'll give them that, especially Kuzma.
They do.
They've lost 8 in a row. I think the Pistons are going to pass them. I think the Pistons are.
The Pistons had the notorious worst start or the worst streak of NBA all time. It was 28 losses in a row.
Yeah,
and I mean now that they got 8 wins, so
I mean, give them a little bit of credit here. I mean, the Pistons second half, we could see some things out of them. Maybe for them, try to go 500 second half. That would just be a good stepping stone for them because they're the same. I think they're ahead of a lot of these other teams. I mean, they got a lot of good young pieces. I mean, I think it's just hasn't
how you
worked out.
piece them together now.
They traded away all their vets, too, which I think is going to help get those young guys more minutes and
get them more minutes,
develop
get them more time, get Tom some more time.
Especially with Monty Williams as their coach,
he's
a great
coach.
He's a great coach.
He just went to the finals a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, get him one coach of the year too, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I mean, got to give him credit there too. So that's the East right there. Moving out West real quick.
Gauntlet. The first,
this is just
the first 4 teams are.
It's kind of in sections right now.
Other. Yeah,
that's basically how it is. It's 1 through 4, 4 through 8, and then 9, 10, and then the rest. But we'll go through it right now. So 1 through 4 in order is Minnesota, OKC, the Clippers, and Denver. Those 4 will not be in the same order. We'll get to that in a little bit. I think at the end of the season, but I think that will be the top 4. I don't think maybe the Suns. The Suns get in there, but I don't really see one of those teams falling down. Maybe the Thunder. Maybe the Thunder.
Maybe the Thunder because of just pure being young.
Yes.
But other than that, I mean, the Timberwolves have really surprised a lot of people, if not everybody.
Yeah, and we'll touch on some of these teams later, but I don't think we'll touch on the Clips later, so I'll just talk about them now.
Get rid of it.
Yeah, so I mean, this season has been amazing. I mean, one of my favorite seasons of all time for the Clippers. I mean, getting Harden.
What a turnaround.
Getting Harden was great, and then losing those 6 games in a row.
Humbled
the team, which really helped us for the rest of the season. Without that 6-game losing streak, we're 36-11, and that's even with the games before Harden. So I mean, that's that right there. But bringing Harden in on this team has really brought the team morale up. I see Russ just happy now, playing with his role on the bench now. I think that really helps the team
dynamic.
Being that
6 man.
Yeah, and same with Norm too. I mean, he's embraced his role on the bench. I mean, we really just got a good team chemistry going. The only thing that's not going well right now for the team is the old PJ Tucker and Bones Highland situation. They've been kind of, if you haven't seen it, they're kind of just been mad with how many minutes they've been getting, or basically they've been getting none. But we've been winning games, so I don't know really why they're complaining too much. I think PJ maybe was promised, which really there's no promises in sports, but sometimes you get
especially if your name's PJ Tucker, man.
Yeah, he's been in the league for a while, and the Clips obviously brought him in as just part of the Harden trade, but for his veteran leadership too, and for him to say he doesn't want to be with this team and he wants to be with a different team. I mean, at this point, just let him go and be with a different team. We don't want that.
Open up a roster spot.
Yeah, we don't want that on this. We could have signed what's his face. We could have signed Tony Snell.
Oh yeah, Tony Snell.
We could have signed Tony Snell and helped him and his family out. a little bit there, but that's besides the point. But Bones Highland is a kind of a guy that I understand where he's coming from. He was our backup point guard at the beginning of the season. I think he was told, you're going to be our backup point guard for this season. I mean,
he was really good for Denver, too.
And he was really good for Denver, too, and he was really good for us the last 2 years. But, I mean, he just fell out of the rotation, man.
You're bringing guys in like Harden. You're bringing guys in like
get lost
Russ,
in the shuffle, dude. It's just unfortunate for Bones, and I really hate to see it for him, because I think he's a really good player, and I hope he goes to a different team and is successful. But it's just not going to happen on the Clippers, unfortunately.
At least not this year.
Not this year. And Amir Coffey stepped up for us off the bench. He's been really big in that ninth man role for us. But one thing we need to really address is our backup bigs. Plumlee and Tice, we're kind of rotating through them right now, along with Zubac as our starter, which he's been really solid this year. But Plumlee and Tice have been our backups, and we've been going through them, and they've just been kind of iffy. It's like one of them's going to have a really good offensive game, one of them's going to have a really good defensive game, but it's never at the same time, and you're just getting there's so many holes on the court when they're on the court, I feel like. And that was the big mistake that we had a few weeks ago when we played Minnesota. That game was for, at the time, the 1 seed. We just let Cat and Gobert just dominate us the whole game. We were running small ball for some reason. We had Plumlee out there, really just had no answers. So I think in the playoffs, that's something we need to address. And make sure that when we play those teams with good bigs, like every other good contending team, like Denver and like Minnesota, and even OKC to an extent with Chet in the front court there.
He's been great.
I mean, we need to cover these teams better. New Orleans beat us. They're a big team too. I mean, there's a trend here. So that's just one thing we need to address and one thing I'm worried about for the season. But ultimately, I think this has to be the year, if anything. It has to be. This year and next year, it's a short window for this team, but I think the window is very promising.
Yeah, I like that. So moving on to Denver. Denver, they're Denver. They're going to find a way. They'll probably end up with the 1 seed.
They'll be in the conference finals probably, and they'll be the 1 seed, I think. But
they'll probably find their way up. 5-5 before All-Star break, that is not a problem for Malone. He will find a way to get these guys going.
It's honestly going to make them better, too.
It will.
Yeah, so, I mean
nothing but bright side for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, they're
obviously
reigning champs. If they win this year, obviously they're going to be happy with that. But if they don't, they got their first championship in franchise history last year. Can't complain too much,
So
moving on from there, the 5 and 6 seeds. I guess we'll incorporate 5 through 8 here. But Phoenix and New Orleans have kind of been staying.
Yeah, I think Phoenix just needs to get healthy, and the second they get healthy, they're going to be a contender too in the playoffs.
Both those teams have just been kind of there at 5 and 6 for the whole year. And
New Orleans they've been weird. They've gone some great stretches. They've gone some horrible stretches as well.
I think they're a good team, and we'll talk about them in a little bit too, because we have a little contender-pretender kind of thing we got going on next. But Dallas, they made some moves at the deadline. They're probably going to move into that top 6. I think New Orleans will fall out.
I 100% agree. 100%.
And then, but I don't think New Orleans is going to. I think they'll make the playoffs as the 7th seed. I think they'll be right there. And if not them, I think it's going to be the Kings at the 7th seed. Because this Kings team, I think, is still very dangerous. I'm not saying they're going to win a playoff round, but I think they can get in there and win, 2 or 3 games in a series and make it very interesting for a contending team. Something
with the Dallas Mavericks is before the season even started in the summer, the Celtics traded away. It was like a sign and trade for Grant Williams. Love Grant. I love the guy even more now. I love him even more.
Yeah,
because you know what he did?
Yeah.
I'll go right into it. So, Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, they're both signed by Jordan Brand. All right, and start of the season, Grant Williams. They said he's turning a lot of heads the wrong way. He rubbed off the wrong way. And so he's wearing Luka's shoes. He switched to JT.
I saw that, yeah.
His main man. He went back to his main man. Because those shoes were way better than whatever those Luka crap is.
Yeah, and then he started falling out slowly out of rotation, and then eventually was traded.
Yeah.
To, where was he traded to?
It was some...
I totally cannot. I'm totally blanking.
I'll pull it up.
Yeah, but that's besides the point. He's out of Dallas now, but they brought in PJ Washington, right? And he's going to be a great addition for that team because the things that he can do in that front court I think are nothing like they've had before.
He's on Charlotte now.
Yeah, he's at Charlotte now, so they I think they traded him for PJ Washington.
Yeah, it was
right?
for PJ Washington.
Yeah, so Dallas, I hope they move out of the top or out of the play because
I hope they fall out, but
I don't want to play them in the first round again because we
Kyrie
play them
and Luka.
I feel like every time we have our best chances we play Dallas in the first round. And it's been true. It's been true in the
They've been
bubble,
great
the year after
series,
the
too.
bubble. Yeah, those are great series, but I just I want
Can't
to
take the
I want to
heart.
be able to root for Luka in the playoffs. That's the
No,
only thing.
I hate Luka.
I want to be
dude.
able to root for Luka in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I want to
you-
see him
You
win.
could root for Luka. I'll be on the other side of that one.
That's fine. That's fine. But moving on to my least two favorite teams in the league, who are at 9 and 10 right now, are the Lakers and the Warriors. And unfortunately for
Disappointing.
the rest of
seasons
the
for
West.
these guys.
they're kind of turning it around right now after disappointing starts.
Yeah, I mean, these guys. I mean, the Lakers. They've had some weird stretches with LeBron not playing, and then Anthony Davis not playing a little bit, and then they went to like Boston, for example, with just role players.
Yeah, and they just
and
like
beat
light
the
it up.
Celtics,
Yeah.
And it's weird to see like Austin Reeves had 33 something. It was in the 30s that game, and having like a young player like that who can just turn around and just light it up when LeBron's not playing. I mean, it's weird. This team's really weird, and they gotta figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, LeBron and AD, and I think this is the same with the Warriors too. I'll include Curry and I guess just Curry for their team. But do you know those three guys are going to get their points and they're going to get their stats? But it's just on the Lakers, Reeves, Rui, D'Lo. What are they going to do? And those are their next three best scorers. I mean, those guys have to produce.
Besides AD.
Yeah. Besides LeBron and AD, but those three guys, they have to produce, and if they don't, then they're not going to win. And that's what's been going on this year. And then same with the Warriors too. I mean, if their role players like Wiggins and I guess Clay at this point aren't going to produce, then they're going to be sitting at 500 where they're at right now in the West. And in 500 in the West is barely a play-in team.
Yeah, it is.
If that. So.
And I mean, with all the things with the Warriors going on with Clay and benching him and Draymond's.
And it's got to be
antics.
tough for Clay too. I mean, that's got to be a really tough situation for him to be, the second face of that team for the last decade, decade plus. I mean, and you're going to get your number retired by them. You're a Warrior legend.
Yeah.
And you get benched. You have to kind of just take that. It's
to
really
take.
hard. It's a really hard pill to swallow, but it's just how it is. And I hope for him he has a resurgence in his career and he can find a way just to be that elite shooter for the team. But it's just trying to not in the good direction for him. Coming off an ACL and Achilles injury. Yeah, you got to root for Clay, I think, a little bit, just to get back.
It's weird to think about that. The Warriors are 14-14. They're 500 at home. That was a team that was notorious for never losing.
They
at home.
never lost at home, ever.
So seeing them being 500, they're going to find a way. They're still going to be in the playoffs this year.
I think so. I
And-
think they'll be the 8th seed, and I think they'll make some noise.
They're gonna, they probably will come playoff time. But as of right now, they just got to figure it out. I mean, right before All-Star break, they did figure it out. It was 8-2 in their last 10.
Yeah, I mean they went on a run. They played very well against their one loss right there was against the Clippers, but they were leading that whole game. So I mean, I'm gonna give them 9-1 in their last 10.
Yeah.
I really don't think the Clippers deserved to win that game either.
They did.
But they did. So I mean, a win's a win. But at the same time, this Warriors team I think is, or I'll say, Steph Curry has been playing so
I mean, he's lights out.
and I mean it's crazy how nobody can defend this guy, but I mean he's basically unguardable at this point.
He's
So,
been unguardable for a decade, though.
yeah. So I mean it's
But
just
it
that
just
nobody's
seems even more so,
nobody's with him
yeah.
now, so he hasn't really had the help.
He
But
doesn't.
moving to
The
11
rest
through,
of the guys.
11 through 15, these 5 teams have kind of just been there the whole season, and
I think there's one team that stands out here.
yeah. So the teams are Utah, Houston, Memphis, Portland, and San Antonio. And let's touch on Memphis, Portland, and San Antonio real quick because those are the 3.
We'll start in San Antonio.
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama.
Great rookie season.
He's having a great rookie season. I still don't think he should not win Rookie of the Year.
Really?
I'm going to be fond on that. I think Chet has done far more than what Victor has done, but they have a bright future. They got a young team.
They do. They have a really young team, and I think that I think next year they could really make a push.
They might be able to make a play in next year.
Because I feel like somebody's going to sign there.
Yeah.
I mean, why would if you're
Greg Popovich.
if you're an old not an old guard, but if you're a guard that like wants your own team, kind of like how Jalen Brunson did, that's probably a good team to go to. I mean,
It is.
Wemby needs a second guy. He's going to get it eventually in his career, but who's it going to be? I mean, I guess we'll find out.
I guess we will.
So, and then Portland, I mean, they're kind of just stuck right now.
They traded everybody away. Now they're just kind of working with what they have.
Yeah, they just got younger, and I think they just need their young guys to develop a little bit more. Scoot, Simons. I mean, he's not really a young guy anymore, but he's still kind of in that realm because he hasn't really shown that next step yet. But hopefully soon.
I was surprised that they didn't flip Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah.
That was a really weird.
Yeah.
That's a must flip.
Especially because
That's
I
a
feel like
flip
they're
guy.
not playing him as much
No.
anymore. I mean,
And that's a guy you received the rating 6th man of the year. You flip him right away. You're gonna get something for him.
why not? Yeah, I mean, at
He's a
least
starter in the
get
league
a pick or something. I mean, they have accumulated some picks recently, which is
Yeah.
good for them. And
They've stacked.
I think they'll go in the right direction. I think them and the Thunder are going to be
The Thunder, man, they're
two of
still
the- yeah.
rolling, man.
Yeah, we didn't even mention all the picks that the Thunder
Yeah.
have, along with people that they could sign in the cap room that they have, and they got a lot of good things going for them. But Portland, they have a lot of good things going for them too. Just the record's not there yet.
Yeah.
So I'll give them that. And then Memphis,
And
they're
they
just
went
hurt.
they went 6 games,
25.
25 games
Yeah.
without John Morant.
Yep.
It hurt, and I mean I know Marcus Smart's banged up. I know a lot
Desmond
of
Bane's been out. Is going to be out the whole year now.
yeah. I
and-
mean, they only have Triple J kind of running out.
Yeah,
out
and
there.
Triple J isn't a scorer, so he can't. Isn't an elite scorer, so he
No.
can't really carry a team to a win like Ja or Desmond Bane.
And they just traded away my guy Xavier Tillman's coming
yeah.
back into the green
Yeah, he
uniform.
is. He
Love
is.
that.
So Memphis, I mean, it's just kind of a wash year for them. I think they'll be back next year.
But
They just need to get healthy.
Yeah,
That's really it.
they need to get healthy. But a team that is honestly, I'm gonna say it. They're having a great year for what they have, and for the first year under a new head coach, my guy Ime Udoka, the Houston Rockets are getting it done right now. And Rockets fans, I mean, I think Ian's more appreciative, one of our Rockets correspondents.
Ian Kennedy.
But I mean, yeah, for going to, I think the second to last place last year, all the way up. I mean, I know it's still a 12 seed, but I mean, if
It's the 12th seed, but
it's a good 12 seed.
they have the same record as Atlanta. And Atlanta actually has one more loss than Houston. Sitting at 24-31 right now is Atlanta, and 24-30 is Houston. So, but one of them's the 12th seed, one of them's the 10th seed. It's just playing in the West. I mean,
19-9 at home for a Rockets team. That's awesome.
yeah, and they're a really young team too.
Yeah,
so,
they're
I mean,
fun to watch.
Yeah, and they are fun to watch. I mean, Sengun's really fun to watch. Jalen Green's kind of coming around a little bit for me, but I mean, Freddie.
Yeah.
I just love
bunch
watching
of random
Fred.
guys.
Yeah, they
on
kind
their
of just
team.
got a team there. They just have a team.
They have a team.
that's just there.
A team that can
And
play
they
and
play
get a couple
well.
wins.
And they play well.
They will shock your team, or they might lose to your team by 30. I mean, it's going to be one of the two.
Yeah, I think that if I had to equate them to a team in the East, not unfortunately, but I might say the Magic. But I do think they're like a step below,
They are.
a slight step below. But and then the Utah Jazz are kind of on the same level as the Rockets. I feel like it's kind of just a younger team that has some vets that are playing really well, like Jordan Clarkson. He's playing really well for them. But guys like Walker Kessler, even Colin Sexton, who's a young guy there still. I mean, they're a young team with a young coach, and they're kind of just trying to find their way.
And
too.
it's kind of like the opposite. Like last season, they started off hot and got crazy, and then right after all started, they just died down and missed the playoffs.
And maybe it could be the other way.
And
this
maybe
year.
it could be the other way.
It could be.
But I mean, I guess a Jazz fan, it could be disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. But I feel like when you look at those teams in front of you,
I mean, you have to respect.
you got to look at it
everyone.
and say, who are we better than?
Yeah.
And the answer is nobody. And I do think that's the problem with the West is that literally there's no room. And thank God the plan's a thing now because
for the West.
For the West, because we would be sitting here thinking, are we gonna not? We're two of the Dallas, Sacramento, Lakers, and Warriors
Wouldn't
at
make
least
it, yeah.
are not making the playoffs. At least, and that could include the Pelicans in there, and maybe even somebody like the Suns if they can somehow have an injury, but hopefully not. But so that's rounding out the standings right there for right now. But do you want to get into contender pretender?
Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask Charlie Eastern teams. He's gonna ask me Western teams. So
Yep.
first team off
Just
the
to
bat.
avoid the Western Eastern Conference bias, kind of.
First team off the bat, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Are we saying like contenders in the sense of like
They can go out there and they can win a championship.
win the championship or just like make the finals?
Win the championship.
I
At least make the finals.
I think they're
guess.
pretenders. I just think that the other teams in the East right now, when it comes playoff time, especially Boston, Milwaukee right now, but the Sixers when they get healthy again, and the Knicks when they get healthy again, I don't think Cleveland's better than those four teams, and not being better than those four teams means that they're not going to make the second round even. So I think they're pretenders. I'm not saying they won't make the second round, but I'm saying
There's a chance.
in that scenario right there, those four teams are better, which means that those four teams theoretically go to the second round. So I'm going to say they're pretenders.
So in the heat of the
Even though they're my East team. They are my East team, but
yeah.
they are pretenders, I think.
So in the in this current rankings, the current matchup would be Miami. What do you think about Miami?
I think is that the next team?
Yes.
I think they're contenders. I feel like any time that you have Spoelstra and you have Jimmy Butler, and you have that Heat culture, I think that you can win a championship. So I think they're contenders every year that they have those pieces.
Enough said.
Yeah, because I mean they proved it too. So
Yeah.
I mean you can't really deny it either. So
Next team up, battling injuries, the 76ers.
I think they're still contenders. I feel like if it all depends on obviously how Joel responds from this meniscus tear, because that's a tough injury to come back from. But
Officially out of the MVP race too.
Yeah, because of the games now. Yeah, which is a big key for him, I guess, in his legacy. But hopefully, a guy like Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris, those guys can step up, and a lot of the weight will be taken off of Joel because he was averaging like 35 points a game, which is just insane. So if he can average around like 30 in the playoffs, and because the playoffs are usually lower scoring too, if he can average around 30, 28 in the playoffs, and those two guys can elevate their game a little bit and average around 20, I mean that team should be set. I think so. I think it's just more of how the role players are going to do than how Joel's going to come back from his injury.
Yeah. Last team. Actually, I'll do two more teams. First one is the Bucks.
I think it's kind of the same situation. I think it's just, but equate like Embiid to Doc, or maybe not Embiid to Doc, but in the sense of like maybe that's the one thing plaguing your team from getting to that next level. I just think Doc might hold them back. So maybe with that, I'll say pretender because I don't really think that. Yeah, now that I'm talking about it and saying it out loud, I really don't think that in a 7-game series with Doc as their head coach, they can go into Boston and win, go into Philly and win, or even go into Madison Square Garden and win. I really think the Knicks are like
That's the last team. I
think they are legit contenders. I seriously think that. I think they're going to be in the Eastern Conference Final. Like if I had to pick right now, it'd be Boston and the Knicks. And I honestly don't know who I would have winning. Fully healthy, both teams. I feel like the Knicks match up pretty well against the Celtics, and I feel like they match up pretty well against most of those teams in the East, and I think they built their team really well for the future and for right now.
Yeah.
So those are those, I guess, 5 teams right there. So, Gavin, the West, it's a very tough conference.
Very tough conference. I've kind of thought about this one, though, so I think I'm going to have some good details of these teams.
And you probably expected this team, maybe not first, but somewhere in here. But the Lakers, what do you think?
I think they're pretenders. It's kind of hard when you have
maybe for the West. Maybe this is more of a get to the conference final kind of situation because I mean only one of these teams is coming out of the West.
That's
and
true.
It's going to be really hard.
So all right, still for the sake of the Western Conference final,
yes.
I still think they are pretenders because I don't see them getting out of a first round. Especially if they make a 7 or 8 seed, that's, as of right now, still going against Minnesota, who matches up better against the Lakers, and OKC, maybe the Clippers, maybe the Nuggets. All 4 of those teams match up better than the Lakers. I don't see them escaping the first round, but if they do, it's just purely because of LeBron and his playoff experience. I don't know. I mean, I think it would be very easy for the Thunder to kind of fall down to 4. I think that's.
I feel like that's a given, honestly.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think that Denver or LA and Minnesota, they're going to battle for one. It's going to be those 3 teams, and I think probably by the end of the season, it could be LA or Denver. I don't see Minnesota being the 1 seed by the end of the year.
Let me ask you because I have the Thunder and Timberwolves as 2 of these teams,
Yeah.
so just go with them too in this scenario.
So in this scenario, I think the Thunder are pretenders because they're just so young and they don't have any playoff experience on their team.
Yeah, the only guys that they really have is, I guess, Gordon Hayward.
Hayward.
And then Shea, I mean, has been in the playoffs.
But not as
But,
that guy.
Yeah, I mean, he was a role player on the Clippers teams that made it there. So, I mean, he wasn't really.
So for the sake of the Thunder being so young, I think next year they'll be contenders.
Yeah,
But
I
as
agree.
of right now, I think they're pretenders for the sake of making the Western Conference Final because if they're a 2 or 3 seed by the time playoff comes, or even if they're a 4 seed, and they have to see a Phoenix Suns, I don't see the Thunder being
It's
the
really
Phoenix
going to
Suns.
be because, I mean, obviously the seeding is 1 through 4, plays 5 through 8 in that order. But these top 4 teams are going to have to play probably in some order: Phoenix, Dallas, New Orleans, probably, and then either the Lakers or the Warriors or the
I think the
Kings.
goal of being a 1 through 4 seed in the West right now is just to make sure you're not the 4. Because if you're the
Yeah.
4 and Phoenix is the 5, by the time playoffs come around, you have
That's the one thing
Yeah,
I'm worried
Devin
about is that we're
Booker.
going to be in that situation
Yeah.
again with them. I mean, because it's every year we play the Mavs or the Suns. Those are the two
Yeah.
teams that we play in the first round. And if we can somehow, not saying they're an easy team, but if we can somehow get the Kings or the Pelicans in
Yeah.
the first round, that's
That'd be
obviously
nice.
a more
Yeah.
preferable matchup because then second round we won't get as beaten up, and then we'll be ready for OKC or the Timberwolves in the second round.
Yeah, and speaking in terms of the Suns, I mean, come playoff time, you don't want to see Devin Booker in the playoffs.
No,
you don't
or
want to see
KD.
KD.
Definitely
You don't
not.
even want to see Bradley Beal.
No.
You don't even want to see Yusuf Nurkic the way he's been playing this year.
No, yeah, he's been playing really well for them.
So I think the Thunder, in lieu of that, I think they're pretenders just for the sole fact of being young.
and then the Timberwolves.
The Timberwolves, I have a really hard time with them because they finally figured out how to run their two big men, and the way they've been running it is probably one of the greatest things in the whole NBA right now.
I mean, I'm going to go back to that
dominant,
game.
man.
It's offensively, at least, because defensively they both kind of just stand there in the paint. And Cat's gotten a lot better at interior defending. And I think
Yes.
Gobert's obviously really
Well,
helped him with
yeah.
that. I think offensively they put Gobert down low and they put Cat right at the top of the key, right with Ant, and it works so well because those two can just run a pick and roll
Yep.
and they can do whatever. They can both shoot threes. They can both drive really well. I mean, then if neither of them can really make a play, throw it down low to Gobert, kick it out to McDaniels in the corner. One of the
Or
two.
even Rudy's been playing great offense this year.
Yeah.
And that's something that
That's
nobody
what I'm saying.
can,
Get it down
yeah.
to him there. Yeah.
And for the sake of even making the Western Conference Finals, I think the Timberwolves are contenders. I think they have the team that can get them at least to the Western Conference, and if they don't see the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals, they might go to the finals.
I agree because I think
They
they match
match
up so well against the Clippers. I mean, I that's the one. Honestly, that's the one team I do not want to see in the playoffs just because they have two good big men and we arguably have none.
Yeah,
So or elite because Gobert is elite defensively and Cat's elite
offensively.
offensively and he's a decent defender too. And Gobert's obviously decent offensively, but I just don't think that the Clips or even a team maybe like the Suns match up well against the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I so for the sake that I think the Timberwolves will be a contender, but I don't think they finish with the 1 seed, and
Yeah.
I think the Timberwolves can fall to the 3. I think that's they. I'm gonna stamp it in right now. Prediction right here, early prediction.
Okay.
It's going to be either Denver or LA. I don't know who to choose for one. 'Cause
I don't
both
think it's
those
gonna
teams
be
are
us.
crazy.
I really don't. I don't think the way that we've been playing recently, we haven't looked as I don't say as motivated because that's not like a good term, but I guess I'll use it for this sense.
Driven?
Yeah, we haven't looked as like driven to win games because we've been winning games. So I feel like our record's gonna slip a little bit. I know we're 36-17 right now, but I mean I think we get to like around 30 losses. I think we get to 52-30. I think we
That's so great.
16-13 in the second half. I think that's pretty possible for this
Yeah,
team.
and so all right with your supporting, I'll go Denver 1, I'll go LA 2, and I'll go Minnesota 3, and OKC. If Phoenix can get,
I can't
hot,
wait for that OKC Phoenix series. If it
I really
happens.
hope that happens.
That would be so good.
So I really hope
The
that
matchups in
happens.
the playoffs this year, I think, are going to be so good. Even out in the East, I mean, the Pacers are probably going to be in that 6 or 7 game, which means that they'll play probably the Bucks or the Celtics in the first round. So, I mean, that's going to
I
be
can tell
a
you,
great series.
you know,
And you don't want to see the Pacers.
The worst thing is about this play-in thing is
When you're the 1-2 seed, you don't know who you're playing. Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
And the thing that's so weird, if the Celtics played like the Cavs the first round, I would be all for it. I could see that. But we have been so historically bad these past like 3 years against the Heat, against the Magic even.
That's what I'm saying.
We lose random games to
It's
the
like
Magic.
you
and we
always-
lose to Indiana. It's like those are the 3 teams I don't want to see in the playoffs.
It's like saying it's like the saying in baseball, like the ball's going to find you if you don't want it to. And it's kind of like this. I mean, like if you have a team like the Heat or like the Cavs who've kind of had the Celtics number in recent years. I mean, you're gonna find, or like for the Clippers' sake, like the Mavs and the Suns.
Yeah.
We find them every year, and it's just like, how does that always work out to be like
Yeah.
that? Whether it be they're the top seed or we're the top seed, I feel like we always play each other.
That's the thing with like the Celtics too, is like, especially being like the number 1 seed, I by far want to be the 1 seed. I want the East to have to run through Boston. I think that's just how you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, you want especially with the Clippers too. I definitely want us to be the 1 seed because we have older guys, and I don't know really. I know they've traveled a lot and they've been through it, but that can take a toll on you, especially in the playoffs if you're traveling out to OKC or New Orleans, some of these more Eastern, Western teams.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So in Minnesota, too. I mean, there's really no good West Coast teams besides Denver. So it's really hard for us for a travel aspect of that.
Yeah.
But getting back to contender, pretender, I got 2 more teams for you.
Okay, let's hear it.
We got I'll do them because they're kind of in the same realm too. The Mavs and the Kings. I feel like I know where you're going with this, but
I think I'm gonna say I'll give the reasoning for both, but they're both pretenders. I'm gonna say that right now. And for the first one, I think of Dallas, and I think of a team who's got the best backcourt in the NBA. I mean, they have, the best front court in the NBA. No, I said that right. The best backcourt.
best court, yeah.
They have Kyrie and Luka.
Kyrie and Luka, yeah.
I mean, that's really hard to find something like that. And come playoff time, though, I don't think that's going to mesh well at all. I think it's going to be hero ball, and I think it's going to. I don't really like them together from the start. I know they've kind of found a way to play with each other and do this, do that. I don't see them getting past the second round. I think if they match up against anybody in the top 5, that they will lose that series.
I agree.
And
right now.
Yeah. And for the Kings, they're not nearly what they were last year. And unfortunately, that light the beam kind of feeling hasn't been there. Like last year, they were such a feel-good, like they loved playing with each other. They're going to go out there, they're going to win, they're going to shock the world.
Yep.
And now it's like this year they had the stakes of they got to make the playoffs.
Yeah, now they had to make the playoffs now again, yeah.
And now it's like they're not that fun, like great, young, crazy team. They're just kind of like the Kings.
Yeah, and they went on
probably make the playoffs, but won't get past.
And they had a I think it was November. They had a really good month, and I think that's been the majority of their season because their last 10 they've been 5-5, and I feel like most of the season when I've looked at the Kings games, I feel like it's every other game I see them win and lose, and I just don't really know how they got to 8 games above 500. And obviously, I don't watch every Kings game, so I don't really monitor them that closely. But I know they lost like the Pistons a few weeks ago, and that can't sit well with the team.
No.
So I mean, losses like that they accumulate over time, and especially in the West when you're trying to gain seeding in every game and every win matters. I mean, that half game right there, they could be sitting right above Dallas at the 7th seed right now. It's just like little things like that. I think later in the season we're going to see a lot of tiebreakers come into play, a lot of head-to-head come into play.
Yeah,
and I think games like that, losing to the Pistons, the Wizards, the Spurs, even throwing Portland in there, I guess, in Charlotte. But losing to those 5 teams is just you cannot have it. You cannot have it. It's just you just can't, especially with the seeding wise.
And especially with the West. I mean, the East. I'm looking at the East right now. I'm looking at the Celtics, and then I look at the Knicks. I look over, and I see the Knicks are 10 games back from the 1st seed. You go down to the West, the Nuggets are 3 games back from the 1 seed, which is so doable. And it's going to be so hard, and it's going to be so awesome as an East fan just to watch this West go nuts and just go battle each other.
I was going to say that you must really like that.
I love watching West.
You like that as an East fan that is solidified basically where they are, because if you were in the 3 or the 4 to 8 range, you'd probably be kind of worried a little bit now. I mean, those teams are only the Knicks and the Magic. I mean, they seem like they're completely different places of the season, but they're only 3 games apart.
They are.
So, I mean, let's not maybe underrate. Maybe we're underrating the Magic a little bit too much here, because I think
we are. I think they can definitely make a playoff push. And I'm not gonna lie, 1 through 8 right now.
That's what I want in the playoffs.
I think that's what it will be in the playoffs.
That's what it should be. I don't want the Bulls. I mean, maybe the Hawks in there would be fun.
No,
I know you don't like playing the Hawks because of last year in the first round. But I mean,
freaking scaring me to death, man.
If I could pick one of these teams to not be in the playoffs, out of those 9, I guess, including the top 8 in Atlanta, I honestly would probably say Miami.
I don't want Miami in the playoffs.
I love watching Miami, especially in the playoffs because they just win. And it's fun to watch. But, I mean, I don't know. I kind of want to see Trae Young and DeJounte go at it against one of those top teams again. Because they play really well, and they played really well in that series last year. and against good teams. But I
Yeah,
feel
I
like
think-
Orlando for them, I want to see them against that 2 seed, whoever that is, and I don't think that's possible with Miami there.
I think best case scenario is Chicago jumps all the way up to 7 and takes that, or takes jumps the Magic
Yeah.
and takes that 8 spot.
If you guys can get Chicago to jump up there, which I don't anticipate,
I don't either.
they'll probably be the
100%
10th seed.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're kind of playing pretty well too right now too. So
I mean, they are, but
I don't know.
I think the Celtics match up the best against the Bulls. I mean,
yeah.
It's the Bulls.
It's the Bulls. I mean, they have guys who can beat you, but they won't. They won't, unfortunately. For
their
them.
depth isn't. I mean, you can't compare.
Yeah, they
these
just
two
don't have the
teams.
depth. I mean, their best bench player and role player is Alex Caruso, and I love Caruso, but he's just not. He should not be your best role player on your team.
Then again, I'm kind of thinking about this season. I'm kind of comparing it to last season. Like if we saw the Heat again in the playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, god damn it, I'm going to be.
Yeah,
I'm thrilled for the
I would
rematch.
Love it. I would love it.
aspect.
Yeah.
But I'm scared, poopless. I can't say the shit, but I'm scared because Miami is notorious for. I mean, what
Especially
they've done.
upsetting good
And
teams.
they did it to
Yeah.
the Bucks last year. They did it to us last year. Still find a way to the finals. But oh my God, if this was the year the Celtics won and they beat Miami to get there, how much more sweet is that going to taste? That's going to taste sweetest.
Yeah, I just think the one
Even
thing.
though if the Miami's not even the 1 or 2 seed, I mean, beating Miami in general in the playoffs is hard to do.
I think the one thing to monitor isn't like who's going to be moving in and out of the playoffs. It's going to be who's moving within the playoffs. It's
Yeah.
going to because I mean, you look at both play-ins right now. The only teams that can maybe get in are Utah and Houston,
I don't see either of them getting
and
in.
I don't think either of those teams are going to get in. Now East, Brooklyn and Toronto.
They're not getting
I don't think they're getting in either, just based on the moves that they made recently. So I think the top 10 are kind of set.
I think they're solidified, but not
I think
in
so.
the
Just
in the
not
order.
in the order. Yeah, I think the top 10. I think that honestly, we're gonna see the same like top 6s and whatnot. Maybe New Orleans and Dallas flip.
I think the
I
top
think
5 for the Western will stay the same, or not in the order, but they will be the 5 teams.
Yeah.
Even in the East too, I think the top 6 will be the teams,
Yeah, I agree. I just think that
but it's the order.
yeah, just the way that those teams are trending right now. I think that you just gotta the rest of the season is kind of just watching the standings and more than ever, honestly, because this season I feel like has just been so close the whole year
It
too.
has.
Because I feel like in years in the past we've had these close races at the end and at the All-Star break, but they've either fizzled out or they came kind of too late and it wasn't like a whole season long thing. But I mean, all year everybody knows who's the top 4 seeds in the West. And everybody knows who's in that middle tier in the East, I guess, too.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess at this point it's just waiting and seeing who's gonna
It is
come
waiting and
out.
seeing.
So I'm excited for the rest of the season. Gav, what do you think about the rest of the season?
I am so excited. I mean, you have that mentality where this is our year. And I've had that mentality
Yeah,
for about
it's
3 years,
yeah.
but it's never felt like this.
That's what I
That's
agree.
the thing.
I
It's
agree.
the past 3 years for the Celtics, I've been, this is our year. Or
This
I'm
is
gonna
the
say,
first year I've legitimately said that for the Clippers because I honestly think if it's going to be any year, it's going to be this year or next year. I think it just has to be.
and I'm gonna slim it down from what I was saying from 3. I'm gonna narrow it down to 2.
Yeah.
No, I'll go 3 because if
Yeah.
I go 3, it's the finals.
Yeah, it's the finals year, yeah.
So yeah, for the past
Yeah,
3 years,
I agree.
I actually thought we were winning that finals, and then we didn't. And then I was like, okay, we didn't win the finals. We're getting back, and we're gonna do it. And
I didn't think you guys were going to win that finals, but I thought you were going to. I honestly think if you guys won Game 7, I think you beat Denver. I think you beat Denver.
Oh no, I thought I still believe.
And
that we
Denver,
would beat
but Denver was on a run.
They
Like
were.
last year, especially when they got to the championship because they played the Lakers, right, in the Western Conference final. Or when they got to even the Western Conference final, it was kind of like writing on the wall. It was, if they can get there, I think
Yeah.
they can do it. And so maybe not, but I feel like Boston, Denver last year would have been
It would have been.
so
it
good.
actually would have been a great.
would have been
Finals.
so good.
It would have been a great final.
Yeah,
But I think with the Celtics this year, reframing the whole team and just doing everything they could so they can get over that hump, I think more than ever, this is the year. And you feel that way.
I agree. Yeah,
But
probably
there's-
won't be for either of us. It's just how it
knowing
works out.
our teams, they're
Yeah.
gonna find a way to
Second
mess it up
round.
for us.
Can't wait for the second round.
Can't wait for the Eastern Conference Finals.
I just can't wait to lose to the Thunder in the second round. It's gonna be that would be literally the worst. The Thunder would be the worst one to lose to because they're just so young.
Yeah.
And we're so old. So like we should, on paper, if you look at that series, I feel like on paper in any series we look pretty good.
Yeah.
But them being kind of older scares me a little bit. It makes me excited about the playoffs. But right now in the season, it makes me a little bit scared about them being a little bit older. I think we're also going to rest our guys a little bit more. Knocking on a ton of wood right now. They've been relatively healthy too, especially Kawhi and PG. With all the injury.
Kawhi.
Kawhi's missed 5 games this year, and 3 of them were for the same injury. Quote, he hasn't really affected him because it wasn't back-to-back games ever that he missed. So he's doing, quote, load management, but it's obviously not as much as he was when he was rehabbing his ACL and those injuries. So keeping those guys in the lineup as long as we can, and maybe at the end of the year, sitting them every other game, I'm totally fine with that. If you can keep 2 of those 3 guys in rotation every game, then I think we're fine. We're fine. So, and especially because Kawhi's been MVP candidate this year, I think. But maybe that's a topic for next episode. So
I feel the same way about JT.
Fair enough.
So
fair enough.
With
they're probably the 3-4 right now. Honestly, honestly.
So researching into this episode, I found this article on NBA.com. So shout out NBA.com for the 10 biggest questions following the 2024 All-Star break. And I'll ask them, and we'll both give our own little spiel about it. So the first question is...
We'll go through it pretty quick, too, because I feel like we touched on a lot of them, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, number 1 question, if Joel Embiid doesn't return, are the Sixers bound for play-in tournament?
If he doesn't return, I think they are.
I think they are, too.
I think the Heat, like we've been talking about, I think the Heat and the Magic, and obviously the Pacers, who are below them right now, will jump them. I think just the depth that those teams have over the depth that the Sixers have is better.
I think it depends on the timeline. If he doesn't return, and he will return for playoffs, I think.
I'm saying if he returns anything less than like the next 20 games or 15 games, I think they're playing bound. Yeah, but if he returns within the next 15, I think they're fine in the top 5. Yeah. Top 4 maybe.
We'll agree there.
Yep.
So next question: which team will hold the best record in the West, which has been so competitive?
In the West, I honestly think it's Minnesota, and I think they're going to run away with it too. I don't see that. I know I keep going back to the one game against the Clippers, but that game impressed me so much and proved to me that was a legit team. So I think it's going to be Minnesota. I think they're going to blow everybody out of the water.
I'm going to hop on a different train, and I'm going to go with Denver because I see the Timberwolves as still the team that I don't think that can win the championship, and I know Denver, they just won it. They know how to get back to that 1 seed. So I think they're going to try everything they can do to get back, because that helped them so much.
I honestly think the Clippers are going to end up being the 3 seed. I think it's going to be Minnesota, Denver, 1, 2, whatever order you want to pick. And I think the Clips are unfortunately going to be number 3 just based on, and maybe even 4, but if the Thunder don't. We're banking on the Thunder falling off.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
If they don't, I think there's a good chance that we end up at the 4 seed, which means that we're probably going to be playing Phoenix again. So, and even if we're at the 3 seed, we'll probably have Dallas.
Yeah.
So, like I've been saying the whole episode, getting those top 2 seeds is going to be very important for us.
Guys,
yeah, it's very important for us.
This next question, so number 3, can the Bucks recalibrate under Doc Rivers?
Yeah, we touched on with contender pretender a little bit. I don't think so.
I don't think so either, just because of the sole fact of what they couldn't do before the All-Star break. And now it just leaves me with a ton of question marks after All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, that's the last thing you want at the All-Star break is question marks, and they had.
Especially
that's all they had. That's all they had. So I mean, definitely not what you want. I think you said it best there.
So, the next one, is the worst finally over for the Warriors? So,
I think
do you think that was the worst part of their season?
I think so. I think that stretch with Draymond getting suspended and Clay getting benched and kind of the drama that they had, and obviously their coach passing away too, that was devastating too. I think the worst is definitely behind the Warriors.
I think the worst is over too. I mean, I think they're going to find a way to get Clay back in. Unfortunately, find a way to get Draymond in, and Curry's going to be Curry. So
yeah.
And
he's
Steve
not going
Kerr,
away. He's not going away either. I mean, they're a dynasty. They were a dynasty for a reason, and I think they still have the obviously the pieces to be a team that could go on a run. You never know. You literally never know. Same with the Lakers too.
So the next question is the worst finally over for the Lakers?
I don't think so, because they've been relatively healthy all season when the Warriors haven't been. I think that's the main difference. And also, I'm just biased to not liking the Lakers too, so I hope that the worst is in front of them.
Yeah, I mean, as a Celtics fan, I mean, I guess I can agree to that. But I mean, I don't see any promise from the Lakers that I've seen in previous years.
Yeah, they haven't shown us anything either.
No. So I'm gonna say the worst is not over, and they might not even make the playoffs.
Yeah, they're 19-9 at home and 11-17 on the road.
Yeah.
That is awful. And if they can't get their home, if they can't get their away splits on track and keep those home,
especially those long road trips, you need to pick up three.
Yeah,
three
if you go on a
five-
5-game road trip, you gotta at least hit 3 of them, especially if depending on what teams you're playing, obviously. But if you're an elite team, quote elite team like the Lakers are, you should be able to win those games, right?
You should be. Number 6, will the Mavs frontline additions help them avoid the play-in tournament? I think yes.
I think definitely, and if not, I think maybe jump the Suns. I don't think that's being talked about enough. I think that the run that Luka's on right now is literally historic. This guy's averaging close to 40 points a game in the last however long, or the season.
Yeah.
I mean, you just can't stop the guy, along with having Kyrie, having PJ Washington now, and all the other role players that they've had for the last however many years. That team, I think, that team that went to the Western Conference Finals 2 years ago, I think could be right back there.
Yeah, I think they could be definitely not in the play-in tournament. I don't see the Mavs as a play-in team.
Not at all.
Doesn't mean I don't see
Not
them,
at all.
Yeah, I don't see them winning a series, but I don't 100% think that the Pelicans will fall under them.
I agree.
So number 7, what team will be on the spot come March and April?
Yeah, so explain what that means, because we were reading before. I didn't fully understand that.
So basically, which team is on the spot from being in the playoffs to missing the playoffs?
So like on the
Who's
line,
on the verge?
Who's on the line? And we kind of talked about this a little bit. I think the only team is probably the Hawks or the Bulls, but that's going with the Nets jumping up. So
well, yeah,
I don't know.
This is more of a question. I mean, obviously we're gonna take in play-in, but which team's on the spot come April? When it comes to
actual playoffs,
who's getting in the playoffs?
I think that's where you're going to see the Kings fall out, unfortunately.
I unfortunately do too.
Yeah, I mean, I want to root for them, but the way that they've been trending in teams like the Warriors, I feel like at this point are going to start climbing up maybe ahead of them. And I mean, if LeBron can get his team together,
will be above them too, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think the Pels are a legit team too. I think maybe not legit, but I think they're a legit team that could win 2 games in the first round. And shock a team, win a game on the road, win a game at home, kind of like that.
Yeah.
But I think, unfortunately, for the Kings, it's going to be them.
So now going to the East, who do you think is on the spot? Who's on the
to
verge?
fall out? I mean,
I think 1 through 8 is pretty solid. I don't see the Bulls making it.
I think low key the Magic, but only because they're so young.
Because they don't have that grit yet. I guess
they've been playing so well recently, and Paolo, Wendell. Franz Wagner. Yeah, Franz Wagner. They've all been playing so well for that team, including Jalen Suggs and Cole Anthony off the bench.
Yeah.
They've been rolling right now. So I mean, that Suns team, that Magic team, I think is pretty dangerous.
Yeah,
for the future.
Oh, definitely.
Not for this year, but for the future.
They could definitely.
And they got a great theme song too. They do. Orlando Magic. Hey.
So number 8, which team can still salvage a poor start?
I think we've been talking about them a lot. I think it's either the Heat or the Warriors. I think those 2 teams have been.
I think definitely the Warriors.
Definitely the Warriors. Yeah, I mean
they're finally getting on right terms, and as long as they can just keep Clay and somehow, I think
we keep going back to them, man. We keep going back to them,
but they can salvage a poor start.
Yeah, I agree. I just think that. Like I said, the stuff that they've had happen this season is not normal.
Yeah.
So I think they'll get it together.
Yeah, so this next question, number 9. And guys, I have to say right now, I didn't make these questions. NBA.com did.
Shout out NBA.com.
Number 9, will anybody in the East catch the Celtics?
No, I mean, they're 6 games up on the Cavs and then 8.5 up on the third team. And they've only lost 12 games all season. I don't think they're going to get to even close to – maybe they're going to get to 20, but I don't think they're going to get past 20.
Yeah, and in this –
and the Cavs are already at 17, so and they're the only team below 20 in the East. So
that is true.
Just based on the math right there, the Cavs are probably the only team that can maybe do it.
I really hope nobody will be able to. And this little snippet of the answer, apparently, it says that this brings up the Knicks and how they've restructured their team. It says the Knicks will be without OG Anunoby and Julius Randle for maybe the next month. So who knows if the Knicks can
and Brunson's banged up too.
So who knows if the Knicks can fall to 5 or even 6.
I didn't know that OG was out that long. I knew Randle was going to be out that long. I did not know.
I know. I'm sorry. It was well, I don't know about OG, but I know Randle's going to
Randle's that but Randle even being out a month is going to be
tough.
killer for that team, especially in that front court. So
yeah. And the last question, and to end off the podcast today, who will finish with the worst record in the NBA?
I said it at the beginning, kind of. I think it's the Washington Wizards, man. I really do. I think the Spurs and because I think honestly it's a 3-team race right now. Race quote between the Wizards, Pistons, and Spurs. Because the Hornets and the Blazers are somehow too good to be like in that top 3. I think just the way that they've been playing recently too. But the Pistons have been playing pretty well recently. So have the Spurs, but the Wizards have just been kind of bad the whole year. So.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to fall down. I'm not saying the Pistons are going to be much better, but I think it's definitely going to be a close race for that number 1 pick, or the odds for the number 1 pick.
I'm going to agree to right here, and I'm going to go the Wizards as well. I'm not a big fan of the Wizards and all that they thought that they were going to be able to do just to sneak into a play-in. I'm not a fan of it, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think the Pistons have a little bit more drive, even though they're the last seed in the entire NBA, than a Wizards team who's only 1 win ahead of them. So
yeah, I mean
for that reason, I'm saying the Wizards, and I don't think the Spurs will, but I think the Spurs can string together maybe another 7 wins. But I think the Wizards get maybe 5 wins the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean I'm looking at the Wizards schedule right now. Yeah. They've lost 8 in a row at this point. And they're 2-8 in their last 10. Okay, but let me mention this: the 2 wins that they had were against the Pistons and the Spurs in that stretch.
Hilarious.
So they've gone. They had a 1, 2, 3 game or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game losing streak before that 2-game win streak, and now that 8-game losing streak. And this is their next 6 games after the All-Star break: at Denver, at OKC, home against Cleveland, home against Golden State, and at both LA teams.
Wow.
Yeah.
They will lose every single one of that. I think they might.
I mean, and their schedule does not get much better. They play the Pistons 1 time the rest of the season. I don't think they play the Spurs again. They play the Celtics twice. They play the Bucks. They play every good team. I legitimately think they win less than 5 games the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I think they get to 12. 12 wins. 13 wins. I mean, that is awful. That's awful.
Horrible.
That is 70 losses right there.
Yeah.
Close to it. 69 losses. Nice. Losses right there. That is not good.
No.
Not nice.
Not at all.
Not nice. Not nice. But that's too much Wizards talk. Gavin, I want your finals prediction right now.
Finals prediction now?
East-West. You don't say who wins. You don't say who wins. If you want to.
Coming out of the East, I got my Boston Celtics. I mean, I don't think it's that biased this year. I think there's a legit shot. Coming out of the West. It's between
it
two
could be
teams.
anybody.
Between
could
two
be
teams
anybody.
for me. It's either the Denver Nuggets
Between one team
or the Clippers. Those are genuine answers. And for the sole fact of being hungry and being the defending champion, the Denver Nuggets will be back. And hopefully we see Jason Tatum raise the Bill Russell MVP. And
maybe
Celtics can finally get back to
maybe
the promised land. And maybe even, if I'm saying it right now, the Celtics win the NBA Finals, I, alongside Dan Monahan and Nate Walsh, will all be at the parade. We've been playing this for 3 years now.
You have to.
We've been playing this for 4 years now.
You would have to go. And if the Clippers win, I would definitely fly to LA.
You would?
I don't know. I probably not, but I mean, like, I would definitely consider it. I feel like.
I mean, you check the plane tickets.
I would definitely look at the plane tickets.
I mean, for me, it's only a 4-hour drive to Boston.
Yeah, it's not a 4-hour drive to LA.
So, I mean, Dan and I, we legitimately talked about this. That we don't care if we have work.
That'd be big.
We'll call in sick. We never call in sick.
Call in sick.
And
do we got to do
that's an emergency right there.
You never know when you're going to get another parade.
Exactly. And if I ever get one in my life,
who knows?
It's.
I'd say
I really hope it's the year.
I'd say my prediction is I'll go as least biased as possible. Biased pick, I'm picking the Clippers to win because I do think we have a chance. But I do think the Celtics come out of the East, and
That would be one hell of a stretch for Charlie and I if that happens.
that would be unreal.
Oh my goodness.
That'd be unreal.
Best friend
that'd be
versus best
honestly
friend.
unreal. But coming out of the West, I agree with you. I think Denver, but I think you're overlooking Minnesota a ton.
I think I am.
But I will pick Denver. I think if I had to pick one, just for the sake, I do think if they get there though, I think they win. I think they beat you
Go
guys.
back to back.
Yeah, I think they go back to back if they get there again. If they don't,
That'd be a hell of a center matchup right there.
that would
Kristaps versus
I
Jokic. I think we know who's dominating the interior.
be. Yeah,
But
yeah.
we know who's dominating the perimeter. I think that my guy Tingus Pingus.
Defensively.
I'm saying
what are you saying?
offensively. Tingus
Yeah,
Pingus
yeah.
he could sling
Well,
the rock.
Jokic
from
isn't a
behind.
great
No.
defender. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that could be a great little finals
that
rivalry,
would be
maybe.
pretty nice.
I
That would
don't
be
know.
pretty nice. I mean, that Zubac versus KP match would be pretty nice too. But I guess
Have a
only
little Kawhi versus JC.
only time will tell.
Only time.
and,
we're praying that we get
And
this
we're
time.
praying. But for right now, make sure you follow us on Instagram.
At Out of Bounds Podcast with a dot in between every single word.
Yes, there is, Gavin. Follow us on Instagram, also at Out of Bounds Podcast. And then, shoot us a DM, leave us a comment, let us know what you want to see. We're going to come out with a lot of new, fun content coming up soon. So just let us know if you have any ideas. If you don't, that's fine. Just say hi, maybe.
Yeah.
And then,
Acknowledgement would be nice.
yeah. And then, other than that, do you got anything, Gav?
Just ready for this NBA season to wrap up, and it's only February.
Yeah,
so
we'll
let's
hit on
get
some
rolling.
NHL, college basketball, MLB soon, so stay tuned for that. But for right now, we'll just be talking about the NBA. So thank you guys. Have a great day.
Have a day.